Hello. I just thought I'd put a short video together showing about how I target rivers with float fishing dead baits. It's pretty straightforward. There are a couple of other methods, live baiting and lure fishing. Probably better off to do lure fishing on its own, and there's better people to explain how to lure fish than me. Live baiting, when I was younger, I used to do a lot more of that. It'll stop you blanking a lot. Whether it'll catch you more big fish, I don't know. Bit more involved, a lot more effort. Anyway, hope you enjoy. Any questions, feel free to ask. And at the end, I'll show you a couple of fish, bigger fish you can catch from rivers. Cheers. Lovely looking morning. All we need now is a few pike. Fingers crossed. I must admit, when you're pike fishing, quite often I would say when you land on the fish, especially on a river, you put your baits in and you have a take within 20 minutes, or not even that, 10 minutes. And it's a sign to stay there a little bit longer, and I haven't had a take within 10 minutes yet. The times I fished this water oh my god, I don't believe that. Right, yep, that was the first take. This is, I was saying, about 10 minutes. That was the first take of the day. The fish fell off. It was about 10 pounds, and that took an eel section that hadn't even defrosted. I'm going to show you it in the rig in a minute, but that bodes well. Right, that is the bait that the pike has just picked up. Frozen eel section. It's a good few years old, probably 3 years old, and it's been defrosted a few times. The same rod setup I've seen on my other videos if you've watched them. Your Dave Lum P1 Shimano bait runner XTE 10,000 bulletproof reels, lasted a long time. The Power Pro on there is in excess of 50 pounds. There's the rig. The rig was linked in me other. I've got at the end. I've done a couple of videos on how to make this rig. It's about the most versatile pike fishing for me. Got the ET Nod float there, fluorocarbon up trace, 1.5 ounce lead straight through to an eel on the bottom, and that's what did the business. Now all I need to do now is put one of these on the bank. Right, I'm gonna get this bait back out there post haste. You get a take straight away, you know there's pike in the area. I've got some proper dodgy pound shop glasses on at the moment, I can't see a lot. Yeah, what I'm doing when I fish a river like this, it's quite simple. Not loads of features. I put one on the far margin, two on the near margin. There is a marginal shelf on that fish. I've got my float set, so if I put it in the middle, it's 6 inches over depth. When I pulled that back, I felt it come up the marginal shelf, so it was really tight to the near margin. So I've got one tight on the near margin, one on a bush on the far margin, and one on the near margin upstream, a tad further out at the bottom of the marginal shelf. I'm using 3 different baits. I'm using an eel, a lamprey and a bluey. I think the bluey and the lamprey put off the most amount of scent, so I put them at the top and the eel at the bottom. I have absolute confidence in the bluey and the lamprey because I purchased them this year, whereas that was a bait that was well old. It just goes to show you, do not chuck away old baits. Right, I'm going to have a cup of coffee. Oh dear. I don't know if you saw that, but I just dropped, I think that was probably the same fish. I'm reluctant to let them go a long time down here. You're better off like missing fish, hitting them quick. But eel section, if I miss it again, I'm going to be putting a bluey on. Eel section is notorious for losing fish on. But I do want the eel. I haven't had a touch on the lamprey yet, and I haven't had a touch on the bluey. Still, it's early days and we've got a lot of water to cover. It's not gone off. I've broken my chair, tighten that up and wait for a bit. That was second take. Well, second bite, which is good because that was on the other margin and different spots. There's obviously a few fish around here. Still haven't even poured my first coffee yet. Be good if we can get one on the bank. I'll try and show the rigs a bit more in detail. Sometimes I pop up baits on the river, but I just don't see the point down here. Don't need to. I've had one drop take on a lamprey and I've hooked two fish. I've hooked the same fish twice on an eel. I reckon it's about £10, but I've moved my baits around in that area. Been there an hour now. Now I'm getting itchy feet. I'm starting to cast them onto the far margin and then switch them back across to the near margin and then move them every sort of 20 minutes. And I'm going to be moving in the very near future. This is a very good tip. When you're fishing somewhere, especially if you don't know the water that well and there's nobody else down here, walk along the bank, especially if it's a bank like that, and look for footprints. Now someone's been to the water's edge there and they put baits across here. Looks like a nice spot, so it'd be rude for me not to try. I often think I stay well away from the bank unless I'm landing a fish, so I don't leave footprints. Might sound a bit OTT, but yeah, I know from experience when you've been down in certain areas to net a fish, people know that you've been down there and you've caught. I reckon someone's had a fish from there at the weekend. I know there's pike here because I booked them, and there's a couple of spots up there I'll fish, but I only fish them quicker, half an hour. I'm determined to get one out of here before I move. Big mistake I made today is not bringing the lure rod, because fishing two dead bait rods and a lure rod, and then move fish on either side with the lure rod is a fantastic way to spot fish. Quite often you get follows on the lure rod and whack a dead bait on that, but I try and stick to either dead bait or lure fishing. If you want to go out and out lure fishing, you're better off with no dead baits. But having a wobble bait can be quite good. But I do that quite a lot. I have like a roving rod, but I didn't bring that set up with me today, and it would have been very useful next time I'm down these parts. One thing I've got to look at, luggage I take when I'm pike fishing. I've learned the hard way over the years. Rod holder and a rucksack there. I go for Aqua products. It costs a bit more, but the zips don't go. Cool. So I'll get everything I need in all of this. And the chair I'm using there, very important, a decent comfortable chair. I need to get a new one that's in Nash Indulgence. Fantastic chair. The only problem with that is a little bit too comfortable. There's a lot of pike in the water, there's a lot of doubles in this water. I would have expected we've banked a few by now. Okay, it's not what time it is. It's not that. Probably still about 9:30. But I can see all my floats. I can see exactly what they're doing. You see people down here with their rods on bank sticks with I don't see the point in that. You want to keep as little line on the water as possible, basically. On the far margin on rivers like this, just put a float over there, have your rods up in the air, and keep very, very mobile. I'm going to try and do some clips of a few other waters I fish from time to time there. Most of the rivers I fish, a lot of them are different. You can fish the chalk streams, there's some fantastic pike in there, but I'll fish all of them the same way. And just some waters a bit more taxing. This is a very easy water to fish. Tidal waters, you have to put a lot more work in, but the rewards are there to be had. Chalk streams, that's another one. Chalk streams are fantastic. A little bit further for me. Good thing is with chalk streams, they generally don't colour up. You can go down there and you can catch when these rivers are coloured. Having said that, I've done all right in this river when there's some colour. Colour in rivers isn't too much of a problem. Your ideal situation is when the river's been in flood. When it's the colour of like tea, it's not worth fishing. But as soon as that fines down, as soon as that colour starts dropping out, and it's still coloured, mark my words, hint of green, you can have the absolute best pike fishing. And it's usually a day or two before other pike anglers think it's worth it. And dead baits, lures, live baits in that coloured water, they all work. What I'd like is a nice double, a nice fat double. No excuses. The fish are obviously not feeding that hard at the moment, and I'm going to let the next one go a little bit longer. Been hitting them very hard, quick. I mean, that wasn't a big fish. It might have been a double-figured fish on the lamprey. Now these hooks are barbless. I'm not blaming that. They're sharp enough. I hit that fish pretty hard. The only thing I did notice when I hit it, the drag, it took line off the drag, which it shouldn't have been able to do unless it was a fish over 20 pound, and that was not a fish over 20 pound. Right, that bait had been in the water for, well, I cast out, it had been out there into just a different spot, probably 10 yards away, been out there for like 10 seconds before it went. So I think that's the key to keep the baits moving. Sadly, a bit of a disaster. The Nash indulgence chair is shit. Bit out of breath. That was going off like a train, as you probably heard. I decided not to let it run. It was taking a lot of line. Just wound down and hit that. I was on the eel. And yeah, definitely the best fish I've actually landed one. Yeah, the best fish I've hooked today. I'll weigh it probably about 15-16 pound, I reckon. But I'd moved the bait from the far margin over there, and I'd literally moved it to the near margin. Within a minute of me moving it, it's gone. That is the key today. Keep moving the baits. There's plenty of fish here, and hopefully if we can catch a few more of this sort of size, we might get a bonus 20. I need for forceps. That's a fish. Sort of, I won't bother weighing it. I've got everything ready. It's probably a bit smaller than I thought, but yeah. There's always brings us. There's my bait there. I didn't even tie that one on. But yeah, let's get this back out there. When I got out, I was getting a bit carried away. A fish like that on a couple of the other rivers I fished would have probably been 17 pounds, but I forgot where I was at. And that's one thing I've seen recently. This is a worrying trend on social media, is where people start weighing fish of 7-8 pounds and sort of taking self takes and that, and of jacks. And I can understand them, like it's something to put on there, but there's really no point. The only reason I got that fish on the video is because I'm trying to make a video. I'm making a video on how to lose fish at the minute. I think that was my 4th take, and I actually banked one. It might be my 5th. But yeah, when you catch a small fish, I think fish anything under 15 pounds, the key is just unhook it, get it back. And that fish went back absolutely fine. I've worked out a few points. The fish are here. I would have got in the car by now, but I sat here with baits out there not moving for an hour. As soon as I start moving the baits, they're off, which says to me that there are fish here. You just got to keep moving, and I'll probably give it another hour and a half here and cover an area of water before making a big move. one thing I'm 100% sure about is the first take, well, say I'm pretty sure about, not 100% because it isn't always true, but when you move into a swim, the first fish you get is usually the biggest, and then the next fish you get is usually the second biggest. It's a case of that they're the boss of the area, so if there's a 20-pounder or bigger in your swim, the chances are that eats the most and it's the first fish to take your bait. And then you get the smaller ones thereafter. I've found that to be the case on rivers a lot over the years. I've actually moved out of a swim it was many years ago. I actually caught a brace of 20s and a couple of doubles, and you'd think I'd be mad. I moved out of that swim because I was convinced that I'd actually caught everything in there, and I'm really glad I did, because I went on to catch a different 20 a couple of like about half a mile away. So I had 3 20s in a day for a river, and that's the first time I've ever done that. I think when they're really on it, you're catching fish a lot quicker. A lot of people catch braces of big fish, and what happens, you catch a 20-pound fish or a big fish, that fish went back, didn't need the forceps for it, went straight back. Wouldn't surprise me at all if I stay here, if I catch that fish again. I think a lot of people have had braces of 20-pounders when they've caught the same 20 twice. It happens. Anyway, I'm gonna have a cup of coffee. This is a magazine I'm trying to read. It's not going very well down here today, getting a few too many runs, but this magazine, I print it for Martin Catch Cult. Definitely the best all-round fishing magazine. In fact, I don't know of another. I mean, there's probably some carp magazines if you're into carp, but definitely worth buying. But if you're just a general fisherman, this is fantastic. A lot of the articles I get the best enjoyment out of are not fish that I fish for. They're fish that this magazine inspires me to fish for. Yeah, loads of articles, more pages, very high quality print. We've got articles by Rob Christian, Danny Taylor. I could go on and bore you to tears. They're all quality anglers in here, and I've read every single issue cover to cover, and this will be no different. I'm not going to get very far here today. Anyway, lovely day, and hopefully we'll catch a bigger fish in a bit. In fact, I know when I do that, as soon as I move those baits, chances are they're going to go off again. Thought I'd go through a couple of things I do that might give me an edge, and the baits I use. What I've got here is a freezer bag, a Sonic one. It's purchased this off eBay. It's actually quite handy because it's got 2 compartments. In the top compartment I keep forceps, bait elastics, scissors, clips, little things that you're going to need, because this I have quite near me, and I can keep my rucksack closed if I'm moving. It helps me move around. This all fits in my rucksack. It even fits in there, but I can't actually do this up at the minute. Go through the baits I bought with me today. Anybody who knows me knows I'm notoriously tight with bait. It's cost me some fish at CHUB over the years where once I've used the bait, I take it home and I refreeze it. I'll go through what I do. Anyway, what we got here, smelt, absolutely fantastic bait. I won't lie, I haven't used one today because I had a bit of a freezer disaster that I've not mentioned, and some of the bait got defrosted this summer. But I've had hundreds of fish on that. It hasn't got the cucumber smell to it now, but I'm pretty convinced that these are still going to be all right to use. And the water I'm on today can throw up a lot of fish, so I bought quite a lot of bait. Some waters I fish, I bring very little bait. Oh, look at that. Now that is an extra large lamprey head. I get these baits from, I've started getting my baits from Garda, and their baits just seem to be fantastic. The extra large lamprey, they cost more, but you get 2 baits out of it. So you work that out, you've got 2 baits, not 1 bait, so it's probably cheaper to buy them like that. This is just I'm not convinced they'll catch you any more smaller lamprey. That's a normal size lamprey there. That's an extra large one. I only get 1 bait because that's how I'd fish it. I'd only take the tail off it. What are the baits we got in here? That's a quality bait. Eel section. That's probably been frozen about 4 or 5 times, and it's probably 3 or 4 years old. How much confidence have I got in that catching? A lot. I've had 3 takes on eel section that old today already. Blueies, brilliant bait. Bluey head section. I mean, it's just an all-round out, catch anywhere, puts off a great slick. I get 2 baits out of 1 fish, which are a bit small. In an ideal world I'd probably get one, but I use these, it's just a good bait. I've caught plenty of 20-pound fish on baits that size, and I get twice as much bait. The worst thing you can ever do is run out of bait when you're fishing. Done that on harder waters. This is the tail section of one of the extra large lamprey. Now that's going to be a cracking bait. Keep these all in a bag. I'm just gonna, I tie my baits on as well, which is apart from the eel, I tie my baits on, so I don't generally, I can catch 3 or 4 fish on one bait, and that's, once I've caught a fish on a bait, I've got more confidence of that going out there and catching me another fish. I can't understand anybody who throws away a bait after they caught a fish on it, just whack it straight back out. I've done that with carp as well. I've had some big carp on my, I've seen carp anglers absolutely cringe at me for not changing the hook. I just get the bait straight back out there. After I've frozen the bait and defrosted it a couple of 3 times, I lose confidence in it. Sometimes I take 2 bags. The second bag is if I'm in a situation where I am going to run out of bait and I'll start using it. If the pike are feeding that much, you probably will catch. But what I do when it's had, I chop it up basically, and I put it all in a bag. I've got roach, blueies, lamprey tails, all sorts at home, and it's chop. Now this is a bait dropper, heavy old bugger that is. This river wouldn't be too much of a problem, but some of the rivers I fish have got a lot of flow. And what I do with the chop is I introduce that into the swim before I start fishing, especially if it's coloured and finding down from a flood. I'll put it into the top of the swim, and I can use quite a lot of that. And the scent trail, it'll run through and it'll pull everything out into the swim. Basically, this is a heavy old thing, but a pipe rod will cope with it. You just put it in there, send it down to the bottom. Job's good, and you'd be surprised how much bait you can get in there. That sets off a massive scent trail, and I know this works 100%. I mean, I've actually had quite a lot of very large chub on this method. I'm pretty sure it brings the chub in. It definitely brings the eels in as well. If it brings those 2 fish in, it's definitely bringing the pike in. Do you no harm? And what are you going to do with your bait if you don't use it? It makes sense, that I wouldn't go and buy fresh bait, chop it up and use it as chop. Land a mid-double. I say mid-double, they're quite thin here, but that was on a lamprey on the far margin, and that bait had been out there for half an hour. It's a beautiful day. Catching a few now. I'm almost reluctant to move out of this area, but I don't think, I would have thought that the first 2 fish we caught are probably the bigger 2 fish in the area. Might be something better, don't know. Could also sit all day in a spot like this with like 3 dead baits out there and bring fish in. Another method that works well is live baiting, and that's something I've done since I was very young. But ever since Nick Pete talk, probably about, I don't know, probably 8 years ago at Dartford PAC, he's probably the best pike angler in the country, and he swore blind to me afterwards. I thought he was winding me up, and he was a very famous live baiter, that he doesn't live bait anymore, he just dead baits. And live baits will stop you blanking. I'm not convinced they'll put more big fish on the bank. That's my view on it, and as you get older they're a lot harder to, I'm quite good at catching live baits, but I'm not that good at carrying them around. They're not all monsters. I wasn't looking at my floats then. This one's just roared off with a bait. Right, I'm going to get my bait back out of that. There's a joy of tying them on. Smallest one of the day. But that woof back that bait then. And I'm literally just about, I've actually moved a few hundred yards. I'm about to get in the car and see if I can find some bigger ones in a minute. Made the first move. Well, first I did about a dozen moves back there, caught 4 pike, probably dropped 3. There's plenty of fish there. just think if there were bigger fish around, I would have had them. I'm taking a massive move, several miles, and this is I've gone upstream to a spot that I have fished before, and I've had one very good fish out of here straight away. I thought I was too early for this area. There's loads of silverfish topping. In fact, there's a lot more silverfish than the other spot I was at. But as you can probably hear, it's very noisy here. Regarding swim choice, probably the best swim choice when it comes to pike fishing. One of the best swims you'll find is one of the best swims you'll find are the ones you're not allowed to fish, followed closely by the ones you'd be mad to fish, i.e. they're a long walk or they're incredibly muddy or dangerous. The ultimate swim is one like that is no fishing, so mad to fish and not allowed to fish. It's a good chance to catch a 30-pound pike in there. And this spot is yes, as far as I'm aware, it might be free fishing, it might be day ticket. I haven't weighed any of the fish today. I'd say 3 of them were doubles and 1 was a jack. If I was fishing another water, those fish would have been 17, 18 pound. But they have to work for their food in here. But still, it's not a bad day's sport, really, is it? And the day is not over. And this is reconnaissance on new venues. Often, I nearly always fish on my own, whether it's unless I'm in a boat, we can share the costs. But fishing with 2 people on new waters is quite good because you can leapfrog, cover water. 2 people can cover twice as much water. Once you've located the best spots, you don't bring your friend and just fish them. Right, day is drawing to an end. This last move, I was convinced I'd get a few fish out of here, but not a sniff. I haven't really got the option to move far. I did about a dozen moves in the last spot, but it's been a pretty good day. I've had 3 doubles, 1 jack, managed to lose about 3. Sounds about par for the course. Hope you've enjoyed watching this, but yeah, I'm going to try and do a few more videos, maybe one on boat fishing, maybe another one on different types of rivers. Been nice to have had a bigger fish today, but I've enjoyed it. This year I'm not going for any silly big fish. I'm going to give the trout waters a swerve like CHUB and that. It's a bit too much high pressure money in travelling. The goal for this year is to catch a 20 from another water. I hope the big number on the New Year's Day this year, which I made up about, and that's like a weight off my shoulders. Now I can just enjoy my fishing, catching some 20s from new venues. I mean, I've been fortunate to catch 20 pike from over 20 different venues. I worked this out because there's a lot of anglers, the likes of Eric Edwards and that, they gauge your angling ability by what the size is of your 20th biggest pike is from the 20th water. Mine was a fish from Broadlands in Hampshire, probably 1989 I think it was, or when I've looked at my records, and it was £20 14 ounces. I'm made up with that, and I've had lots of 24 pounders, and if I catch a 24 pounder from another water, it'll jump from that to 24 pound. I'll never beat that, but I'll be made up with that. Still chance for a take here, still looking. Oh my god, I don't believe it. I've got a take. I don't believe it. I do not believe it. Right, just banked myself another jack. Well, tough with that. I didn't think, I mean, it just shows that there are definitely fish here. Right. Last fish of the day. Now, that'd make a nice bait. I'll show you a few pictures of fish I've had over the years from rivers. First picture is me 18 with a nice double from a river. No one told me that fish didn't feed in coloured rivers at that age. I spent too much time on trout reservoirs in my 20s and early 30s. The other fish, what you should aim to catch. There's plenty of £20 fish in rivers, and quite a few over 25 pounds. Just don't set your targets too high. You will be disappointed, but you will enjoy fishing for them. you enjoyed that attempt at me making a video on a river piking. Very basic stuff, basic river, dead baiting, keys to keep mobile, and I even managed to catch a few fish there and lose even more. That'll appease the haters. And I really hope you enjoyed it, and I thank you for watching it. I am planning on doing a couple more videos. I do a lot of river fishing. Some of the rivers I fish are a bit trickier than that, and the techniques I use are a little bit more advanced. So maybe end of this year, maybe next year, I'll do a couple more. So do think about subscribing and liking. Any comments, feel free to ask. Tight lines, and thanks for watching. Cheers.